So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Chad George, Combat Jiu-Jitsu World Champion, CMMA head coach, and notorious slapper. Notorious. He keeps them in line. Chad, how are you doing today,
Good, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. I appreciate your time at this undisclosed location in San Pedro.
That didn't sound too undisclosed anymore.
Yesterday, McGregor, Khabib, it went down. You put up a post about it already. First off, what did you think of the fight? You know, you being sort of an important figure in the fight game. What did you think of the fight and then everything that sort of transpired afterwards?
Well, the fight itself, me being a grappler, I'm very happy to see jiu-jitsu and grappling do what it did against somebody who's a very talented striker.
Yeah.
I'm always an advocate of when grappling can overcome and show why it's such a dominant sport and how it can be used into its fullest beauty, in my opinion. And, it's exactly what it was. It was a grappling dominant performance. I mean, Khabib does what he does over and over and over again. And it just, honestly, it validates everything that I stand by for the way I teach grappling and the style of pressure games. And it was a beautiful display to watch up until everything that came after.
Was it what you expected, the way the fight sort of transpired? Like, is that what you thought was going to happen? Who did you think was going to win?
I think the way I thought it was going to go out was almost similar to everybody else. It was going to go one of two ways. It was either going to be a grappling dominant performance, or Khabib was going to get drawn into a slugfest and get knocked out. And it went the grappling way. Conor just couldn't stop the takedowns. He couldn't stop the pressure game. And once he got on top of him, he just couldn't stop him, period. And it was just a slow breakdown of an onslaught that ended up happening from Khabib. And it played out the way a grappler's kind of fantasy happens.
Yeah, and I thought another pretty significant thing was, I thought the biggest strike of the fight, the most significant strike, was Khabib's. He looked like he threw an overhand right and connected real clean.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what we talk about in my academy all the time, right? Like, if you know that I'm going to do something and I do it and I do it and I do it, now I can get you thinking about the other sides of it, right? Because now you're so focused on what my game plan is, I can start faking that game plan and going to the next thing. I can now manipulate the way your psychology is now thinking about my offense. I'm no longer having you in your moment of your offense, defense. And that's exactly what he did with it. He changed levels, Conor went down, and he came over the top. And that's exactly what you do. You get them playing your game. And then, there's this cliche term that people say, and they use it all the time, and I actually think they use it improperly. They say, make it your fight. But people don't actually understand what that means. But making it your fight actually means that you are setting the tone, you are setting the pace, to where they are no longer able to dictate things with their timing, with the way their mind is developing the energy efficiency of what's happening. You are dictating the fight.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened in that moment.
For me, this is sort of like a surreal moment with you telling me this, because obviously, I try to get to the gym a couple times a week, and you actually a couple times, and then you actually train us or drill your students, your fighters, to drop levels and throw an overhand right. I mean, I clearly remember you teaching that, and to see that on display and actually happen, I mean, it definitely is a very practical drill.
What's cool about it is to see it actually in place, but what's funny is I watch people teach it all the time, and they teach change levels overhand, but they don't teach the psychology behind it, right? You can have all these tools, but if you don't understand the application of how it works on both ends, then it's never going to work. Because if you think about it, if I just change levels overhand, why is that going to work? It's not. But you have to shoot in multiple times to get them afraid of the takedown for you to be able to execute it properly.
So, I mean, you think Conor was tiring out? I mean, do you think he was playing rope-a-dope? Some people were thinking he was playing rope-a-dope.
I don't think he was playing rope-a-dope. I think what he did, though, is he was conserving his energy and hoping, I believe, for Khabib to tire as the fight went on, because he's been notoriously, not notorious in gassing, but slowing down. And which is odd, because Conor's notorious for the same thing, right? If he doesn't come out and finish you fast, he slows down and tires as the fight goes on. So to see him seem like he's using that same approach to tire Khabib out, I think was an interesting game plan if that's what it was. But Khabib didn't slow down, and he just kept the same pace. And when you're not used to keeping that pace and somebody's on top of you, that is just suffocating and demoralizing.
Now, obviously, you're an expert at the ground. I kind of wanted to get your opinion on the finish.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? How was he able to finish him like that?
So a lot of people are actually commenting about how, you tapped to like just a face crank and that thing is actually a choke in itself. So when you get in a rear naked choke, people are used to seeing it across the neck, but a face crank, the way he did it, turns the jaw, the mandible across the where you get TMJ, and that actually crushes into the airway as well. So it's not only just a face crank where your jaw is gonna break, it's also choking you at the same time. So it was a choke along with the pressure. So, and he wasn't getting out of it.
See, I was thinking, having been in that position, unfortunately, a couple times at your camp, I was thinking like, man, he was probably squeezing down so hard he felt like his jaw was going to break.
It was both.
I see.
So it was breaking.
Dang.
And he was choking.
So he gets the tap. He stands up. The vitriol is not done there. It looks like maybe there's some shouting, spitting, and then it spills over. What do you think about what happened? Do you think it was justified? What's
Not at all.
going on?
I think it was one of the most disgusting things that we've seen in not only combat sports, but in sports history.
No.
The fact that it turned into what it did is, in my opinion, made what myself and other people have been building for all these years almost get thrown in the trash. I'm a big advocate of the respect of the sport and the martial arts side of it. Mixed martial arts, MMA, is still part of the martial arts system. It's in the name. And all of that was the exact opposite of what martial arts is. We want to build people. We want to help people define who they are as individuals and grow the sport and grow the people that have allowed us to make livings out of the sport. And when you turn this into a gang mentality, you turn this into a mob mentality, you turn this into a sport of which people that don't understand what our sport is believe that it is, we're giving them the fuel to fire why people are not wanting us to be seen as the same athletes as baseball players and football players. And we are just as engaged with the sports and the work that's put in, but we are just extremely underpaid. Yeah. And you finally get these athletes on that stage where they're getting paid, and then they act like this. Now, I did do a post recently, and it got a lot of traction of people for me and against what I was saying, but a lot of people were thinking that I was taking sides to Khabib.
Well, what was the post?
The post was me basically saying that the acts of what happened after the fight were disgusting and it's not what we stand for. But for whatever reason, people were taking that as me taking Khabib's side. If you want to actually look at everything, I did a post several months ago when Conor threw the dolly through the bus, and it was the same emotions of me saying it was disgusting. Yeah. So it's not me taking either side, it's me saying that incident was disgusting, because it was. That did absolutely. The governor of Las Vegas was at the event and had to be escorted out of there.
That's embarrassing.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And me, I'd like to think I'm a representative of this sport. To me, I am embarrassed for that happening.
Yeah.
And I have students, I have teammates, I have training partners, I have so many people invested in this. I've dedicated my life to this.
Yeah.
And that's not what I stand for.
Yeah. Now, with Khabib being so obviously, of a different culture, maybe he takes the talking about the family, a little bit more seriously than maybe somebody here would, and the religious stuff, and Conor offering him whiskey and, talking about, his country and all this stuff. I don't think it was a great reaction. Obviously, I'm with you. I don't approve of it. But could you understand it? And is there something that we can do maybe to prevent this in the future, this kind of craziness?
Well, here's the question you gotta really ask.
Yeah.
What did you think was gonna happen? I mean, let's be honest. When the first incident happened with Conor and there was no reprimanding, right? He got let off with a slap on the wrist.
And a title shot, right?
And a title shot right after that. Like, are you serious? And then you're gonna still pay this guy all this money? Okay, he's your money guy. I get it. He's got a huge fan base. Everybody wants to see it. But then it gets into a political and racial warfare, which are the two largest things that create war in this world anyways.
Yeah.
Race and war. Now you're going to put it on a scale and an audience. People are upset that they're saying, oh, Khabib's a terrorist and all this stuff, and he hangs out with terrorists, and they're mad that he talks about Putin. He's not American. Like, he's from a country that's ran by Putin.
Right.
Of course he's going to back his country. Their country's backing him.
Right.
So now you're turning this into a racial and political war. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like, to think that this is just going to get squashed with the end of a submission or a knockout, you essentially have Ireland and Russia going to war.
It's crazy.
I mean,
it's true.
Let's be honest.
No,
Let's be honest.
It's crazy.
And so if you look at it that way, what happens in war? Yeah. It's not done with a handshake just because one of the battles is done.
Right.
It was disgusting that it got to that level, and it was disgusting that we even have to have this conversation that this has to be looked as like a political warfare.
Yeah. What do you think happens to them after this? After this whole thing?
Unfortunately, I think it's going to be more what happens to Khabib. I think the Conor thing is going to go silently a little bit. You know, he's probably going to get a little bit of trouble. I know that they withheld Khabib's purse from last night. Conor got paid.
Yeah.
I think Khabib, as he should be, you know, you are the one thing they tell you this as a fighter. You are the one responsible for your corners. So when his corners jumped in and attacked Conor, he's responsible for it. I understand he jumped out and attacked Dylan Dennis.
Yeah.
But his corners still jumped in and attacked Conor.
And fighters too. I mean, it looked like Zubaira was one of the guys. I think that.
I don't know who.
I think there's a couple fighters,
Yeah,
and then I heard Dana saying they'll never fight here. I mean, that's a rough consequence right there, if you ask me. You know.
But I mean,
but you were saying,
when you jump over the cage, that's you. I get it.
Yeah.
You are responsible for you, but with the way the rules are, you are responsible for your corner.
No.
So if they jump in and attack somebody, that's you.
Yeah.
That's you.
So, I mean, you told me yesterday at a text, the sport went back 15 years. What do you think can be done to sort of alleviate what just happened?
It's gonna work itself out like it always does.
Yeah.
You know, boxing worked itself out after Holyfield Tyson. I mean, Tyson bit the man's ear off.
That's true.
And caused riots. I mean, think about those riots spilled into the casino.
That's true. Do you think to a certain extent this sort of adds popularity, or
it might, but not in the way that we want it.
Gotcha. So the wrong kind. Basically.
Absolutely, because we're trying to get the fighters to be paid like real athletes.
Yeah.
Who is going to invest their money in this now?
No.
I mean, nobody was going to look at this and go, "Oh, I want to invest in that guy now," because everybody was looking at Conor as the way to hold yourself and to hype yourself and to be able to market yourself. I get he's a brilliant marketer.
Yeah.
That idea's gone.
No.
Khabib worked his way up. I mean, if Khabib would have just ended it there, I think that people would have been like, yes, that's how you do it. But then that happened.
Do you think people will be more careful with their trash talk after this?
I don't know. You know, I mean, people have known me long enough now that my stance is not on the trash talk. Like it's not me.
Yeah.
I think it's the wrong approach, because what's the example that we're setting?
Yeah. Well, Chad, I mean, I really appreciate your point of view, man. This is great. I hope to continue doing this with you. I appreciate your opinion. Obviously, you've been in this game for a long time. And I thank you so much for your time. Anything you want to, tell the people out there that were forced to kind of watch this and maybe reeling back now from MMA, maybe people getting into it who are kind of disgusted?
Nah, just keep at it, and we have to use this platform to keep inspiring people and giving people the tools to empower themselves and reach for their dreams and goals, because that's what we can do. We just have to have the tools in front of us to do it.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man.